Can you just introduce yourself to the camera?
Hello, I'm Matthew Hartley.
Ben McCoff.
Chelsea Nicholas.
Raymond Mead.
And the topic today is, should we publicly fund the arts? Do you want to make an opening statement?
If we publicly fund the performing arts, they would be more likely to pay for all the projects and the costs.
Okay.
Right. Counterclaim. You say that getting funding from the government will help to create projects, but what if these projects are wasteful? For instance, I can't remember what year it was, but the Opera House had some refurbishment work, and no one hardly ever used it after a year of refurbishment.
Yeah, but then you have the projects like the movies and movie companies that are being backed up by the government, and then they're producing these movies and short films and stuff that are bringing money into the country. For instance, with the new Star Wars films, they're predicted to bring £4.6 billion into the country.
But not everyone likes Star Wars, so what's the
Relevance.
Yep, where people are paying for taxis for the arts, but when they don't even like half of them.
And also, how can we guarantee that the money is well spent? What if it's a terrible movie? Or what if what you've funded has gone wrong? Or a major catastrophe has caused that money to be wasted in a matter of minutes or so?
Well, as taxpayers, you wouldn't have any control over what the money is spent on, which might be a downside. But if you are very fond of arts and going to see musicals and stuff, which is what most of the money will be put on, like the West End and stuff like that, then it would be a good thing, surely.
But what if all taxpayers do not like these arts? And anyway, why should they have money taken from them for something that they may not agree or, like at all, or even try to, go and watch? And this is something the government need to think about. Not everyone wants to go and see a show. Not everyone wants to fund something that they're not going to be involved with.
And you can fund it on something else like the NHS for more beds, or people, if they're in a care home, they're just getting sent home with the illness that they've got.
Or
it could go to them to
Okay.
get them have a peaceful death.
Okay, I'll just let the other
There
guys
is
respond
that,
to
like,
this.
for instance, like Ray said, that they may not like it, but with some of the projects that they're funding, they're keeping traditions alive.
give me one example.
Well, ballet and opera, for instance, have been on the decline because people are losing interest in them. But by keeping the tradition alive, then the next generation can see what traditions there were, and they therefore bring more people interesting into it.
Have you ever seen a ballet or opera?
No, I haven't.
So you have no.
They can be kept alive, but doing it this way by having the people fund it is wrong. You should allow enthusiasts of this art, ballet and opera, people who love this should fund it, but not people who don't. People who couldn't care for it are being made to pay for this sort of art, and people will not agree with it, in my
As a working person, I prefer it to go on something like the NHS, but I don't have control on this. So it's being sent to things that I don't even like opera, I don't like ballet, so.
That's agreeable, but what if you were trying to get a job in the arts? By the government funding the arts is therefore creating jobs by funding these projects, and therefore they're making jobs for these people that want to go into the arts
No, but
to do.
not everyone's getting a job in the arts, so
But it's creating more jobs for the likelihood of people to fill those jobs.
where's the jobs?
Well, they're being made, aren't
Being
they?
made.
By being funded by the
They've not
government.
been made yet, though.
We need the jobs now, not in 2025 or whatever year. It's needed now.
But by funding these smaller groups and projects, they're then creating the jobs.
But funding these smaller groups also takes attention away from the bigger ones. I mean, I can understand having big theatres being given money from the government, but these little upstarts who think they can make great shows and waste the money that could possibly put to better uses, doesn't that concern you at all? That these little upstarts could cause a real big problem?
The reason they're funding the smaller projects and stuff like that, and not the bigger ones, is because the bigger ones can normally sustain themselves.
Turn a profit. It's more of an investment with the bigger ones. They give them a bit of money, they think of an idea, make a show, and then get in a profit, so they don't have to be invested in as much next time.
Not always true. There have been a few blunders in the performance art, and people have been burned for it.
The majority of the money that is put into the arts is multiplied because the industry is a business in itself. It's creating money from money. And therefore, because the arts is in one of the highest tax brackets, that the government are getting the money back out of the arts anyway.
Just barely. I've been having a look at profits, and they've been slim. You got like shows maybe like Warhorse. Yeah, they bring in lots of money, but most of the time they don't bring in tons and tons. Surely someone can take that risk and fund it themselves. But the government cannot take these risks.
You only know of the big ones in London, like you don't know. Do you know what's going on in the Mercury Theatre right now?
Well, that's why you need to fund them, so then you're creating awareness for
But
these
we've
companies.
been funding them for years and nothing's happened about it. So why should we continue funding for it if nothing's going into it and we're not hearing about it?
Exactly.
Well, you always hear about the big shows, and that's why people are interested in them. But you never hear about the smaller ones, so that's why they're being funded.
They're still being funded. They've been funded for years, but they've still not got to like the high end of the West End, like Dirty Dance and stuff like that. They do Dirty Dance in the Mercury Theatre sometimes, but does it get?
But you've heard of the Mercury Theatre, haven't you?
Yeah. 'Cause I live in
Therefore,
Colchester.
that's creating
Where's another
awareness.
theatre then?
We have the Civic in Chelmsford, which
Go somewhere
also
else.
quite
Go
small.
somewhere like in the north.
Well,
Exactly, because that's not big. You've heard
That's
of them
not
because
in
they're
our
local.
catchment area though, is it? Because you wouldn't go from Chelmsford, Braintree or Colchester and go to Yorkshire to see a school
Have you
play.
been to any of these shows? I mean, the Braintree College recently held a show that was funded by the government, and it made a very big loss at the end of that time. At the end of the at the end of the whole show, it made a very big loss, and the government had to pay for it. The taxpayers had to pay for it.
You have to pay for it as a working person.
A lot of people did not see their money's worth, or hell, did not even see it coming.
but then that's helping those people that were involved in that little group to then go on and do bigger things. So therefore, the government will then get their payback from the projects that they go on to do.
And they're risking people's money. I can understand if it's put to like the NHS or anything like that, but when it's put into theatres, for it to be risked away to something that hardly anyone's going to go and watch because it's at a high school or a college, it kind of, how do you say, burns people real bad because they have lost money on something that was a dumb idea and should not have continued on.
So if you're an aspiring doctor and something happens in your learning area that causes a huge loss for the government, isn't that practically the same thing?
You can learn from mistakes like that. But theatres make these mistakes often and all the time. And they cannot be learned from as easily as if you made a medical blunder in a school.
But the medical blunder could have a greater significance than a small show
But the medical,
that makes a loss.
like a doctor can save someone else's life. They may have not helped that one, but they can save 10 others in a row.
Exactly. There is some comeuppance from it. You make a mistake, you learn from it, and you can save millions of lives. With theatre, you do a bad show, oh, we'll just move on to the next one and waste other people's money. That's
Okay.
the way it comes.
All right, like closing statements then from everybody. We'll start with you, Ben.
Well, I still feel that funding the arts is a good thing because without them, you wouldn't have such a variety of the arts that you do have nowadays, and keeping some of the old ones still going.
Okay, Chelsea.
I wouldn't say stop funding the arts completely, but take some of that money and put it in something else useful like the NHS or care homes and stuff like that.
Okay, Ray.
If surely people believe that this is one thing they want their money to go to, they should fund it, not the government, because the money can be put to better uses.
Matt.
We should definitely keep funding the arts, but we should put it to things that people would want to see and get good use out of it.